Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ryan Knuppel here, Knup Sports Show, episode 240. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you all tuning in and being here for yet another show. It's been quite a while since I've been live or been on air here, but I'm excited to be back to you. And I got an amazing guest, actually a repeat guest. So I won't spoil it yet, but I got a repeat guest that's in a completely new profession, new sport even. So we're excited to dive in and talk to our guest today. First off, a little housekeeping. SBC Summit Americas. It is next week. I'll be there Tuesday through Thursday. I cannot wait. I'm going to see a bunch of you already. I'm sure I'll see a bunch of your smiling faces there. But if you are going and you haven't reached out to me, please reach out, say hello. If you don't have your ticket, make sure you use our promo code Knup Partner VIP. Get the best discount you can find. But it's going to be an amazing conference. As always, SBC does things right. Should be fun. So that's about it for housekeeping. Hopefully you're enjoying the NBA playoffs and all the NHL playoffs and all the cool things that are going on right now. But yeah, let's bring on our guests. Let's have some fun and let's bring on our repeat guest. Today we have Nic Sulsky of the Curling Group. Nic, welcome back to the show.
Ryan, man, it's great to be back. It's great to be back. 240 episodes, man. Congratulations.
240, and I was reflecting on when you were back, and you were on episode 90 about 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago to the day. Wow. Back in the COVID era, the COVID craziness that was all going on, and it was like you and I still trying to talk through COVID, which was amazing. But welcome back, 150 episodes later. So I'm glad you joined me again. You must have not hated your first experience.
No, it was great, but I mean, I guess that was back in the Monkey Knife Fight days. So I guess when I was up working with the great folks at PointsBet in Canada, you didn't give a shit enough about me to have me back on. Eh? So,
I just skipped that one.
Yeah,
I'll work hard. Job change. We can't do whatever we want. Awesome. So what's new? What's new in your world before we dive into what's going on with the curling group? What's new with Nic?
Oh man, it's just getting through our first season, running the Grand Slam of curling and, building a business, raising a bunch of money, dealing with Toronto in round 2 of the NHL playoffs. Now I am a native Montrealer, so I wouldn't consider myself a diehard Toronto Maple Leafs fan, but I've lived here for over 24 years now, and it's hard to not get wrapped up with the most popular team in the city that you live in. And Toronto hasn't made the third round of the playoffs, I think, since like 2003 or 2004. So being up when we're recording right now, the Leafs are up 2-0 on Florida, and yeah, there's a buzz in the city, a lot of anxiety in the city, but there's a cool buzz, man. There's a cool buzz.
That's awesome. Well, that's good. Well, hey, give us 2 minutes here first and just give the audience a little bit of your background story. We don't have to go too deep. They can watch episode 90 to see kind of back in the Monkey Knife Fight days. But just give us that kind of like highlight reel of kind of where you started and how it brought you to the curling group today.
Oh man, unfortunately, it would probably take more than 2 minutes for me to get to where I'm at right now. Not because it's so incredible, just because there's been a lot of twists and turns. I mean, ultimately, I was I started off in the content world, but I kind of focused my career on the gaming side of things. So I founded a bunch of startups, the biggest of which was Monkey Knife Fight, where I graced your presence 5 years ago. And I think you're good luck, because shortly after appearing on your show, Monkey Knife Fight was acquired by Bally. 2.5 years after launching for over $90 million USD. And then I ended up taking the keys and helping to build the brand and the business for PointsBet in Canada. As you and your audience are probably well aware, PointsBet in the US was sold to Fanatics. There's a big deal right now involving PointsBet being acquired, and it's a publicly traded Australian company. PointsBet in Australia about to be acquired. So, I'm very excited and very proud of all my former colleagues there. And left PointsBet last year, founded the curling group, acquired the Grand Slam of curling from Rogers Sportsnet up in Canada, and have taken on a tract of innovating and growing what I would like to consider the most underserved sport in the world. Like niche sport and secondary sports have become extraordinarily popular, but curling has over 280 million people that watch over 10 hours of curling each year. It's a big sport that people don't realize. Yep. And yet the Olympics is coming next year, and it's the most watched Winter Olympic sport. So I've become completely and totally obsessed with what some like to call the roaring game.
So why curling? Tell me why. I mean, has it always been something you've enjoyed? Have you played? Have you been a fan of the sport? Give us that background. Where did the connection go there?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, and I'm a brand builder, right? And when you're an entrepreneur, you look for opportunity, right? As far as curling goes, like most people, I engaged with curling every 4 years during the Winter Olympics, right? It's the most watched sport every 4 years, and the whole world becomes obsessed with it. I'm not a curler. I've curled a couple times, but as I was building the PointsBet business in Canada, I did a deal with so curling has historically been run by a bunch of kind of not-for-profit international sports associations, right? Yep. Like the FIFAs, FIBAs, and then the national group. So I did a deal at PointsBet with the Canadian National Curling Association called Curling Canada. Very cryptic name. Very cryptic names in the world of curling, like the curling group. And that was my entry point into the sport. And candidly, we did a deal with Curling Canada because at PointsBet, we were trying to build a brand within Ontario, which is, and we knew would be, the most competitive gaming jurisdiction on planet Earth. And at the time, nobody in Ontario knew anything about PointsBet. And as you and your audience probably know, one of the most important things when you're building a brand in the gaming space, essentially from scratch, is establishing a level of trust and integrity with the audience, because what you're doing is you're asking people to enter their credit card information, right? So we needed to align ourselves with brands, with sports that would allow us to amplify and promote a level of brand trust. In Curling Canada, and curling in Canada is quite big. And it has a very significant footprint within TSN, one of the two Canadian broadcast companies. So we did that deal effectively to help establish our brand. And then I walked into my first curling event, and it completely changed my perspective of what the sport is. You know, I thought it was, candidly, old, fat, white people out of shape, just throwing rocks down the ice, right? And I walked in and I was like, whoa. I was taken aback by the youth, by the athleticism, and by the multicultural perspective of the curlers. Even though I did a deal with Curling Canada, the first curling event I ever walked into was actually, ironically, a Grand Slam of Curling event. The Grand Slam of Curling is the biggest event series around the world that features the world's best curlers. Think about correlated to the majors in golf and tennis, right? And so ultimately, the Grand Slam of Curling has the 16 best men's and women's teams in the world. And these teams represent countries that I didn't even realize were big into curling. There were Japanese teams and Korean teams. Obviously, I was aware that there would be Swedish teams, but there were American teams and Scottish teams and Switzerland. And I was shocked. And that started me down the journey that kind of took me here. Was candidly, I've learned through my travels that the entrepreneurs that succeed, the producers that succeed, do things that they're passionate about, that they really believe in. And once I started to meet the curlers, especially, these are incredible, marketable athletes who have never really been professionalized before, I couldn't help but stop thinking about it. And after a great 3.5 years of PointsBet, I left and founded the curling group, bought the Grand Slam of Curling from Rogers Sportsnet, and took about a path to innovation, man.
Amazing. Good for you. I mean, just to take a leap like that, I would have guessed, man, he's like a diehard curler that just loves the sport. But, you dove into something that you saw opportunity, and now you probably are a fanatic of the sport. You're kind of forced to be, but you probably are a fanatic, as you said. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty amazing. And you opened my eyes to a few things curling as well. Talk a little bit about your events, your leagues, some of the stuff that's going on here in the early days of your curling experiences.
Yeah, so the Grand Slam of Curling, which we acquired, there's 5 events every year. Each event takes place over 6 days. I will say that this past season, We sold the most tickets the Grand Slam of Curling has ever sold. We doubled revenues year on year. We tested and tried a bunch of new things within the sport of curling. As an example, I'm a big wrestling fan. I know that is probably a big shock. And so one of the things that we tested during our third event was like player walkouts. And that was awesome. But this is curling. We play it on ice. So for our final event, we did slide outs. So we had this cool tunnel over the ice and players were sliding out as they were getting introduced. It was pretty awesome. This season, we did the first ever Battle of the Sexes in the sport of curling. And you'll appreciate this. The Battle of the Sexes was on the Monday right before our final event. And it was the same night as the NCAA men's final. The NCAA men's final was at 9 p.m. Eastern. The Battle of the Sexes was at 7 p.m. Eastern. We didn't do any paid marketing. It was just word of mouth and organic social. And we had over 275,000 people watch the Battle of the Sexes from around the world, which was super exciting. And then we went down to Nashville right after the final event. And we did the first ever all-star game and skills competition. And we did it in Nashville. Mark Bulger, who used to play for the Rams and for the Ravens, he opened up a curling club in Nashville. And it's awesome. And a couple of our investors are NFL stars. So George Kittle and TJ Hawkinson are both big curlers.
That's
Jared
cool.
Allen is a good buddy, and he's one of our investors, and he obviously just made the Hall of Fame. They all live in Nashville and they all curl. And so next season, I'm really excited. We're doing the first ever actual Grand Slam of curling event in the United States. November 4th to November 9th, we're going to beautiful Lake Tahoe. And that is going to be wicked. Each event goes from Tuesday through Sunday. There's about 70 games throughout the event. Basically, there's 4 sheets of ice within a hockey arena, or we convert hockey ice into curling ice into 4 sheets. And so pretty much there's curling on all day. But the most exciting thing really is about 2 weeks ago, we formally announced that we're launching the first ever professional curling league. Called Rock League, which is going to premiere. We're going to launch Rock League in the spring of 2026, about a year from now, right after the Winter Olympics, which, as I mentioned, is the most watched, like curling is the most watched Winter Olympic sport. So, the correlation is we kind of own the PGA Tour right now, which is the Grand Slam of curling. And then what we're doing is we're going to build and launch the LIV, but we're going to be complementary. And we're using all the best players. There's no conflict, so we're pretty excited about what we got going on.
Yeah, sounds like a lot. And it's you kind of led me into my question. Being here in the United States, my brain always goes to U.S. focused things. And you mentioned one event here. Is it kind of your intention or your goal or your hope to like spread the growth and the gain attention in other areas maybe of the world that it isn't as popular as it is in some? Is that kind of one of the main goals of you?
It's the biggest goal. I mean, curling is blowing up in Asia right now, which is very exciting. 3 of the best women's teams in the world are from Japan. 2 are from Korea, and Chinese women actually just won a bronze at the World Championships, which is pretty exciting. So they're going to be in the Olympics. But the U.S. obviously is a massive market for us that we want to try and exploit. Not to mention the fact that we have a bunch of really cool influencers who are starting to love curling. During the Winter Olympics, every 4 years, curling is the #1 most searched term on Google. We launched our very own streaming platform this year to allow for users all over the world to actually engage with the Grand Slam of curling. Cool. Not surprisingly, Canada was our #1 market, but our #2 market was the United States. Curling is growing in the U.S. faster than it is pretty much anywhere else in the world or anywhere outside of Asia. And curling clubs are popping up and curling venues are popping up in places you wouldn't even expect. Like I mentioned, Nashville's got a huge curling community now. There's a massive curling community being built in Huntsville, Alabama. Austin, Texas has a big curling club or a big curling community. There's a bunch of great curling spots in California. Obviously, we're going to Lake Tahoe, Nevada for our first Grand Slam. People in the U.S. would typically assume that the main curling audience stateside would be like Wisconsin and Minnesota and North Dakota. but it's starting to grow because at the end of the day, it's a super fun sport. It's not hard to curl. It's hard to curl well. It's not hard to curl. It's not expensive, and it takes about an hour. And men and women can play with the same equipment, and it's a super fun social event where you can go, you can have a couple pops, and you can just have a great time.
You know, the way you're talking about it kind of reminds me a little of like pickleball, just from the like sport that like you knew was always around, but could grow into something bigger. And now all of a sudden everybody's playing pickleball. Curling could be something like that. I know the ice might hurt a little bit, like trying to find ice, right? It's a little harder than finding a pavement. But is it a sport that could be recreationally picked up like that, like in a recreational way?
100%. I mean, ultimately, like you said, ice is a factor, but there's street curling products now that are starting to pop up, which is pretty fun, and you know, other kind of lighter lift curling products. But that being said, curling is in the Olympics. 284 million people last year watched over 10 hours of curling, right? So yeah, there's been massive growth around pickleball, but pickleball is also a sport that's encountering a lot of fragmentation as the professional sport is trying to grow, right? Whereas with curling, we're all unified effectively. Right? You have the international not-for-profit sports associations, and then you have the curling group, which is effectively the only for-profit or revenue-driving business within the sport of curling. Yeah. And we're working together. We communicate very, very efficiently with one another, and we all understand that a rising tide lifts all boats. So while I think pickleball recreationally has some I guess some benefit that we don't have, which is it's easy to go out there and just hit pickleball or play pickleball. But from a true competitive reality and a professional or a amateur to professional ecosystem, I think curling is set up for some massive growth because, again, like I said, we already have a massive international audience. And I'll tell you, to go one level deeper, the Grand Slam of curling was owned by Rogers Sportsnet, which is the biggest media company in Canada. In Canada, it's essential for media companies to have a high percentage of Canadian content. So even though curling has a massive global audience, Rogers Sportsnet only really focused on the Canadian audience. So it wasn't part of their business plan to distribute the content outside of Canada. So even though there was this big audience, they were never able to really engage with the best curling in the world. One of the reasons why we acquired it is we wanted to finally distribute that content. And what we did was we launched a streaming platform this year. No paid marketing. We built an app and we launched a streaming platform within it. And we did over 6.5 million views of our games without doing any paid marketing. And I'll take it even one step deeper, which blows my mind. Our average time per user per visit on our streams was over 2 hours. No, like the curling audience is there and it's engageable. They just needed access to that content. So pickleball is a great sport, but they don't have numbers like that. That's why I say that curling is an underserved sport, not really a niche sport. You know?
Sure. Yeah, it sounds that way for sure. So you know, Nick, you've built some huge companies, and you kind of went down this path many times. This is a different journey for you. This is a different beast, I would call it, being a professional sport, being a sport. You're building a sport. What is the biggest challenge that you've kind of ran across that maybe you didn't see building Monkey Knife Fight, building PointsBet, that you're seeing here that you're like, wow, I didn't see this as being such a big challenge, right? What's one of the biggest challenges you're seeing in this time around with the curling group?
So, it's funny. It's a great question, Ryan. And I will say I haven't built really big businesses yet. I've built decent businesses so far, right? This is going to be a fucking big business. Now, the challenge that we face, I knew we were going to face it. And it is a big one. It's I call it, I mean, I don't really call it anything. I mean, I call it a transformation of perception, but it's hard for people to understand outside of Canada how big curling actually is. And that curling isn't this just weird freaking hobby thing that happens every 4 years at the Olympics, right?
Yep.
I knew going into this that the number one challenge was going to be just to open people's eyes up to the incredible athletes that play the sport, the awesome energy that exists within the events themselves, and the fact that it's if you want to marry kind of what's happening with darts in the UK with what happened with golf in the United States, this is where you can find that winter sport sweet spot. And so for me, it's really battling the fact that people hear curling and they have something already ingrained in their head, where some of it's true, but boy, oh boy, like it took me a couple years to get to where I'm at, understanding the opportunity. And obviously we're trying to grow things really quickly. So, you know, as much as I want to be able to convert people into curling fans immediately, it still takes time for people to get into it, because I got to say, man, like, it's a super fun sport to watch. It's to me, it's very meditative. It's like watching baseball, or it's like watching golf, right? It's like shuffleboard on ice, but the sweeping, that's why you see a lot of these NFL guys getting into curling, because the sweeping is such an impactful part of the game, which is why a good men's team in curling will always beat a good women's team in curling. Even though they're playing with the same rocks, they're all the same weight, they're playing with the same equipment, but a male curler, because they're bigger and stronger, are able to actually do things with the rocks that women can't do. So the true athleticism that's coming into the sport is so exciting. And the fact that it's a mixed gender sport is super cool, where you go to an event, you can watch the best men and the best women playing at the same time, which is super random. And all the players are mic'd, which is so cool and so fun on broadcast, because curling is something interesting, is one of the only sports in the world where the players are actually telling everybody, the opposing team, the broadcasters, and the fans, exactly what they're about to do before they do it. No other sport is like that, right? And so, you know, in real time, either whether they're going to be successful or whether they're screwing up. You're getting to hear their strategy in real time. You're getting to hear the drama and the rivalry and the conflict in real time. Like, it's a pretty cool thing that people, I think, once they get a glimpse of it, once they experience it, they're like, oh, I get it now, you know?
Well, thank you for sharing that. You're talking to me. You're literally talking to someone like me who, you know, has those preconceived notions about curling and just, oh, it's cool, it's neat, I kind of watch it a little bit at the Olympics, whatever. So what do you say to a person like me? How do you combat that challenge? What's the next step for someone that's like, okay, I want to turn them into a raving fan? Do you tell them to just, hey, go out to grandslamcurling.com and click watch and just start watching? Or is there some step that I can take next that will be like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like, wow. What's the quick fix? Like, what do you tell me to do?
It's a great question, and I think it depends on what time of the year you're in. Right now, it's, you know, it's the beginning of May, so curling season, unfortunately, is over. Right, curling typically kicks up September. Curling season kind of September through the end of April, right, or early May. So typically, I would say just either go to an event. Obviously, that's the best way to experience any sport, I think, is to go live.
Right.
But the reality is, right now, if you, your audience, go to the Grand Slam of Curling YouTube channel, or to our Instagram page, or to our TikTok, Twitter, but Twitter's more for, not necessarily for video. There is some incredible content that we have captured out there. I mean, let's face it, right now, especially, like, our goal, the goal of every sport right now, I think, is to engage a younger demographic, right? And the younger sports fan is watching, engaging with sports in a different way than we did when we were growing up, right? Short form, snackable content. Now, that's what's incredible about these curlers, is they're game to play. So the content that we've been able to produce this year, just in our first 8 months of being kind of the being part of the leadership of the sport, we've gotten these curlers to buy in on how valuable content is and how incredible it could be to tell great stories. There's some awesome content. Like, I'll give you an example. My favorite piece of content this year. So during our last event during the Players Championship in Toronto, on the Thursday, about 10 guys showed up wearing banana costumes to the event. Now, there's a shot in curling called a peel. Now, it's kind of the most boring shot in curling. If you can imagine, there's like a guard, in front of the house in curling, and one team wants to clear the guard so it's easier to throw rocks into the house, which is like the rings, if you think of like bocce or whatever. Yeah. So a peel is just literally throwing one rock to hit the other rock and to clear both rocks. It's called a peel. So these guys came on Thursday dressed as bananas, and every time there was a peel, they would have a peel sign. They would stand up and yell, "Peel, peel, peel." And this was on Thursday. It was awesome. The crowd was fucking loving it. But this was the moment when I knew, or when I realized, oh, okay, there's something really cool here. Friday morning, after the Thursday night on television, Friday morning, a young 12-year-old girl named Penny showed up at the arena wearing a banana costume. She came with a banana costume and a horn because she wanted to join them. She was like, that looks fun. It was, we did like, our head of content did an awesome interview and kind of a little story that people can find within the GrandSlamOfCurling.com. And all weekend long, every time there was a peel, it was peel, peel, peel. And eventually the crowd, everyone, even people who weren't in banana costumes, were yelling for the peel. There'd be a timeout in the game when teams are discussing what shot they should play next, and you'd hear people in the crowd yelling, "Throw the peel!" Like, just fun, right? Because sports are fun. So that's just like some of the content that exists that we've created. And again, it's all about content, right? So anyway, that's a long-winded answer to your question. But for now, the best thing to do is just check out some of the content, man. It's not what people think. It's full arenas, lots of energy, a ton of fun, really awesome male and female curlers. And and you can check out the Grand Slam of Karaoke as well, which is super fun. Every Saturday, dude. No. So curlers love karaoke, right? They love it because they typically travel all together, right? So, they'll go out and they'll do karaoke together. So what we do every Saturday night, after I learned that they love karaoke, is GSOC GSOC turns into GSOC GSOK every Saturday night, the Grand Slam of Karaoke. We made a big wrestling belt, and we put the curlers up in front of a live band in front of the fans. Dude, we had over 20,000 people live stream the karaoke on the Saturday night. Like, dude, it's so fun. Like, name a sport where at 8 o'clock at night, you're watching the best curler in the world on the ice. And then at 10:30, you're watching them on the stage singing fucking Limp Bizkit in front of a live band. Like, it's just hilarious. It's amazing.
Oh, that's amazing. That's classic. I will definitely check that out for sure. That sounds entertaining for sure. What better way to engage with the actual competitors of a sport, right? Wow, super cool.
Well, especially a sport where the main device is a rock, right?
Yeah,
that's why I really lean into that word for obvious reasons.
Let's rock and Rock League and all the above.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Nick, I could talk about this forever, my friend, but for lack of time, I know you're a busy man. Let's start wrapping this thing up. What's a couple more questions though? What's one ask you'd have of the audience? What's one thing you're looking for, you need help with? What's one ask you might have of people watching this? What would you ask them for?
I think just give curling a chance. Like, you have this idea of what curling is, and you love it every 4 years. Well, this is something that can exist and will exist a lot more than just every 4 years during the Olympics. These athletes, what's crazy about curling is most of these athletes have second jobs, right? And yet it's a massive Olympic sport. So what we're trying to do is we want to make it more fun. So my ask is just give it a try. Like, obviously, if you have a curling club in the city where you live, it's super fucking fun. Go check it out. And curlers are just awesome people. The community is so open and so welcoming. but the content is great. These curlers are really engaging, really smart, really funny from all over the world. Like, behind me, here's the Swedish girls on Anna Hasselborg's team, and this is Tsunami. Wait, there we go. Tsunami Yoshida, who's the captain of our Asian team. She's the most followed curler in the world, and she's a Japanese legend. So, I think just give it a try. And then, of course, for a lot of your fans who partake in gambling like me, unfortunately, I won't be able to gamble on curling. No. But starting next September for our first Grand Slam event, which is the last week of September, curling's finally going to have live betting.
Wow.
And there's never been live betting in curling before. We engaged Alt Sports Data, an incredible company based in California, to build proper live data and odds projections and a powerful API that we're going to be able to deliver to operators. So I'd say give some of the content to whirl. And then if you're a gambler and, if you're like me, you like to gamble on things, in September, when it's like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday, there's nothing else to fucking gamble on. Well, guess what? You can gamble on curling. Give that a go, because it's so fun, man.
Everybody's classic go-to is ping pong. Just bet on ping pong or table tennis or something. But now curling is the give that a try. It is true, right? What you bet on is what you give attention to sometimes. So it definitely.
Dude, that's it. Just a couple bucks. Yeah, a little sweat to see if the if the seventh end is going to finish the way you think it's going to finish. It's kind of fun.
Absolutely. Well, Nic, what did we miss? What last words do you have? I know there were some things I wanted to hit that I didn't. So what's on your mind that you wanted to share here before I let you go?
No, nothing really. I mean, you said you could keep talking all day. Shit, man, you've known me for a long time. I could keep talking all day for sure. No, I mean, if anybody's interested in learning more outside of just going to the Grand Slam of Curling, channels and sites, obviously rockleague.com is where you can get a little bit more info about the Pro League. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm not hard to find. Ask me some questions. Like the curling community again is so engaging, and I'm just so excited to be a part of this journey of helping to reshape the brand of the sport and bring it to a bigger audience. But no, I think people would be shocked at how much fun the sport is and how awesome curlers are, man. Like, that's what got me. Like, the curlers are just incredible people. Go buy your local neighborhood curler a beer, and you'll get some of the best stories you'll ever hear, man. I'm telling you.
Awesome. Well, Nic, thank you so much for sharing. I can clearly see the passion in you, and I wish you nothing but best of luck with this endeavor. I can't believe you're taking it on. It's quite the big endeavor, but props to you for doing such a thing. I think it's going to be amazing, and I'll definitely keep up with it. We'll put all those links that you mentioned. We'll put links to you. We'll put all that out in the show notes, so you guys can go out, click on those, and get a hold of Nic pretty easily. Like he said, he's an easy guy to reach, and obviously loves to talk about curling. So awesome. I really thank you for coming on once again, and let's maybe have a third time, maybe like after this thing blows up and we're talking curling, can you come back on again and share it again?
At any time, absolutely. Thank you. I'm honored to be. Congratulations on episode 240. And I'll tell you, I will do one thing. I will only do another show if we do it live at one of our curling events.
Now we're talking. You're gonna force me there. There we go.
Dude, no forcing, man. No forcing. I'm telling you, you're gonna get motivated, and then we're gonna have some even more fun.
I love it. Well, Nic, thank you. Appreciate you. Good luck, and we'll talk to you in the near future.
Have a great SBC to you and to all the amazing gambling folks that I miss so very much. But have a great week next week. And Ryan, again, thanks so much for having me, man.
Thank you. Take care, Nic. Nic Sulsky, the curling group. Wow. What an amazing, and I'll call it an initiative, business, sport, whatever we want to call it. I know I'm super excited to kind of dive in and check out the sport a little closer. I got convicted during him talking about it. Like, that's me, like the way I feel about it. But I'm super now looking at it through a different lens. I know, especially come Olympics, I'm going to be looking at curling in a different way. And I'm excited to kind of dive in here and check it out. Hopefully you enjoyed that. It was a little different show than we typically do, but I think it was very insightful. And it's always fun to hear new sports doing great things. So I really appreciate Nic coming on for the second time. And anyone that's that passionate about what they do and about the sports are welcome on the Knup Sports Show. So thank you for giving us some attention and coming out and listening to this. We'll have several more shows coming up over the coming months. I hope to see you at SBC this coming week, so please stop by. Until then, take care, stay safe. I'm Ryan Knuppel checking out for now. Have a good one. Bye-bye.